Great. Guess it's a big game. How do you not make this bigger than it is? Because you're top of the league, you lost to them 3 times last year. Like, do you have to tell the team to not get?
Why did you just have to remind me that we lost 3 times last year? I watched all those games last night, so I don't need the reminder. I think, it's a one game at a time mentality, period. And I think anyone who's at this point and is in this race, because there's a lot of teams that are control their own destiny right now, that's what they're talking about. Whether it's your team motto, whether it's not, I don't think you can get, I talked about 5 to a championship on Mosley, and I'm not discounting that we have 6 games, regular season games left, but it's the idea that tomorrow starts 5-12. And so it's just kind of this key stretch because of how quickly they come at you. So you can look and say, this is how much time's left in our season. But I don't think we can pretend it's not a big game. I don't think, I don't fool them when we play a team that I don't think is, like, the one thing about me, and I always tell them in a film session, if we're playing someone that's not good enough to beat us, I'm going to tell them that. I'm not going to turn a team into and make them sound like they're South Carolina, but I'm going to say, here's what this team does really, really well that's going to bother us, and we've got to be good at these things when we play against these teams, because there's going to come a point in time where a team that does these things well will beat us if we don't rise to the occasion, if we don't guard their ball screens correctly, if we don't, whatever that is. And so this is a big game. I mean, TCU is an excellent team, a well-coached team, an ultra-talented team. They don't have a lot of holes offensively, and yet their defense is ranked at the top of the league. So it's going to be a great challenge for us, and it's going to be 2 really good teams playing on the spotlight on a Thursday night, and I think we just have to show up, and we have to know that right now with a half-game lead that, that they're going to be hungry coming off a loss, and so I think from that perspective, they were going to be hungry either way. But when you talk about controlling your own destiny, they can get that one back if they come on the road and beat us. So it's a big game.
Nicki, I'm going to throw you a softball. Just how big is it in terms of getting the crowd out? You had a great crowd Saturday, but, getting the students there, getting the whole crowd there for a game like this? Yeah,
I mean, hopefully it starts with the students. I think, I've talked before about the importance of being cool enough for students to want to come. And I think they start everything from a noise perspective, an engagement perspective. And so I think our marketing department has done an unbelievable job of finding different promos and ways to get students in the building. And hopefully they can get excited because of the quality of the matchup, because of the rivalry, because of TV. Hey, Mom, I'll be on TV, whatever it is. But I think that, it plays a major role because they're going to have a great crowd at their place. And when you go on the road and you play at places like Iowa State, and the impact the crowd can have, we know the impact the crowd can have. I thought they were great on Saturday, and I think they need to be better tomorrow.
This team, as it faces the challenge of facing another good team, how do you feel like your team has handled the challenges thrown at them this year? It's kind of a broad question, but when faced with obstacles, what have you seen in them?
Yeah, I think we compete. I think sometimes, within a game, you have to figure out what's working. What are we going to be effective at? I don't think we've stayed in ruts. Obviously, even against West Virginia, we found a way to claw back into it. Didn't have enough in our tank in that game. But I think that I don't think we ever think we're out of a game. And I think we're going to show up and compete. And so this is just another challenge. It's an elite offense. It's an elite point guard, with a 6'7" shot blocker and scorer inside. I mean, Suarez is as versatile as any player in our league. Hunter, wow. I mean, she's so good and maybe not underappreciated at TCU because I'm sure Mark appreciates her. But when you look at statistically who she is, she's a really, really special player for them. And so, really can't be overlooked because of who she is.
Last year when you played TCU, Bugs missed the last 2 games with injuries. Jan obviously missed all 3. What does it mean to you to get to see them out there and compete, and represent Baylor in a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we were playing well late in the year without Bugs. We had found a way and thought Bella was playing well at the 4, and Yaya in a starting role obviously was playing well, and we played a little differently down the stretch without Bugs. But I certainly think she just creates so much energy for us, and I think that's what you have with her. We obviously put more points on the board when we played against them with Bugs a year ago, but I also think that we're very different without Vonleh. Like we tried to play through her a lot against them, and certainly that's not how we're playing now. We're pick and popping, we're picking and rolling, we're playing in transition. We don't utilize our 5s on the low block a ton. And they're very different. As good as they are, that was a different team with Haley Van Lith and Maddie Connor and Emma Nopu. Like those, they're different, but their spacing is similar. And how dangerous they are on the offensive side of the ball is similar. They get way more output from the power forward position in Suarez this year. And so they're just an ultra dangerous team. And so to me, it's Bugs, having Bugs is about, she's been in a lot of big games for us, and I don't think Bugs fears a big moment. Having Janet gives us another shooter, that a year ago we struggled to put the ball in the basket from 3. We're gonna have to make some perimeter shots against them if we're gonna beat them. So I think her value is both her shooting and just, she's an energy player too, and she's a player that is excited for these type of games and knows with a sense of urgency that there's not much time left, So I think that's what both teams have. I mean, you have 2 teams that are veteran teams that are going to have a sense of urgency because there's not much of the season left at this point.
Coach, you echoed the Iowa State coach's sentiment about parity in this league on X today. I was just curious about why you probably felt that parity in this league was a detriment to y'all when it's not to other conferences.
Yeah, I think that we're really good at talking about how good Big 12 basketball is on the men's side. The statistics and all of that, and I understand the analytics align with it. And if you take out last year and what the SEC did as a veteran league on the men's side, the Big 12 is considered the best men's basketball conference in America. And I think, we fall behind speculation with the SEC and the Big 10. I think this year people are giving us a little bit more props than potentially the ACC, but all these leagues are good. And, BYU beating Iowa State may be a surprise to people when Iowa State was 15-0 or whatever they were when we beat them. But we went on the road and played out of our minds early in the game to build up a lead. But BYU's dangerous. They're young. They can shoot the basketball. They were in a dogfight with Vanderbilt, for instance, going back to the Virgin Islands without Destiny Gibb, their best player. And so Delaney Gibb, let me get that part at least right. And so I just think because we don't have necessarily the history in some of these programs of success that in our league doesn't mean BYU is an elite. Utah beating TCU, Texas Tech having 8 seniors that are playing with a sense of urgency and playing unbelievably good defensive, tough, gritty basketball. Oklahoma State can step up any night and make shots. Kansas has arguably the best freshman in the country, along with one of the best players in the country. And so, I just think our league gets overshadowed because of history and history of some of these programs, and maybe the fact that our league, has added 4 teams from the American when we added them, and then we added Pac-12 teams. And so I don't think we get the same perspective all the time, that the SEC gets, that when they start beating each other up, that it's like, oh, well, it's the gauntlet. You see, oh, these teams have, you look at some of our schedules down the stretch and the number of ranked opponents we're playing. Our league is really good. And I think that's what Bill was trying to say is it wasn't that Iowa State was necessarily bad last night. It was that BYU was really good, really good. They made a lot of shots. And so, I just think it shouldn't be a detriment that the 6th place or the 8th place team beats somebody because they're that good. I mean, who would have been surprised if Baylor men's basketball beat BYU last night? I mean, they put 90 on them. Like, you wouldn't be surprised on the men's side, but there's like this expectation because of the years of Coach Mulkey and Baylor's dominance in this league, or Oklahoma's dominance in stretches, that like this is a 1-team or a 2-team league when it's not.
Coach, to kind of bounce off what you said, 3 teams in this conference have won 21 of their first 25 games. You guys, TCU, and Tech. How important is this final stretch as the Big 12 tournament is around the corner?
Well, I mean, you want seeding, you want NCAA tournament seeding, you want Big 12 tournament seeding, and you want to win a championship. And all these teams are fighting for that, and nobody has an easy pathway down the home stretch, and West Virginia is right there. Like, West Virginia, Suarez hit a 3 at the buzzer to beat them. They had the game won. They make a free throw. Like, it's maybe over. And so you look at the parity at the top of our league, you've got a lot of really good teams that none of us have an easy road to the championship. And so everyone's, I think, watching a Texas Tech last night against Kansas and the way they finished, you could see a team that's like, we're not going to lose, And so that's kind of how you have to play this time of year if you want to attain your goals.
Thinking of that Big 12 tournament, I'm sure you saw the news today about the LED court. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we were lucky enough when we were down at Disney playing, the Iowa-Davidson matchups. We went and practiced on the floor. The league reached out to me and asked me how I felt about it. One, I think it's really cool. 2, I thought it was really springy and soft. Like, I didn't feel like, there was going to be a disadvantage in terms of quality of what we're playing on. We would never want to jeopardize the safety of our players. And so I think it's a separator. I know there was mixed opinions necessarily on the Big 12 court last year in terms of, being creative. Some people love it, some people don't. But I think this idea of branding our league in a different way and being different and being forward thinking, I think it's something Brett has done really, really well and isn't afraid to be a leader in that space. So I think it's going to be awesome. I really do. I think it's the day we practiced on it, I thought, well, maybe we can get these plays right. If I draw 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, you can put them right on the court and you can make them like, here's the cut you got to make. And, we maybe don't mess up our first play if we've got lines on the floor telling them where to go. But no, I think it's awesome. I really do. And I thought the quality of the court was really good.
Bringing it back to the present and maybe going back to the beginning of the press conference, you said you don't need to be reminded of those games last year. What did you see in those games last year that could give you guys an advantage this year?
Yeah, I don't, we didn't have a Talia Scott a year ago. And so game plan wise, I don't think necessarily that either one of us game plans the exact same way. How we game plan for Haley Van Lith isn't how you game plan for Olivia Miles. And neither is easy. So, I think it's more about how did we flow in those games? What were the shots that were there and we didn't make? When did we struggle to get shots? What was effective defensively? They don't play with Silva the same way they played with Prince, even though they're both 6'7" and both, rim protectors and do a lot of things really well. So I think you're looking at 2 very different teams, but in similar situations in terms of when we're playing and the impact and what it's going to mean on the standings. And so to me, it's just feel. It was just the feel of the game. Reminding me what I thought was going to be there, and was it there? Wasn't it there? Were we better in middle actions? Or we better on the wing? And so, but Aaronette Vonleh is not going to be on the floor for us, and so some of our focus was touches for her, especially down the stretch in both of those games, the last two anyway. So it's going to look different.
Coach, Baylor and TCU have been great rivals for many years in all sports. What have been your interactions with them in your time here, like the rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's changed a lot. Our first 2 years when we would play up there, we had sometimes more fans than they did. And that's just, and I thought Reagan did a really good job of getting them to play hard. But because they hadn't had as much success, when you would put a run on them in the third quarter and it would go from 5 to 15, it was like the game was over because, I don't think they believed they were going to win. Enter Mark Campbell, his ability to go into the portal and be an incredible recruiter in the portal, and then, a good game manager, a really good game manager. And all of a sudden, that first game here, which was our first game playing in this building, we won going away, but didn't get away till late. It was ultra competitive. And then there was last year. And, I think all of those games turned into one-possession games. They weren't one-possession games. I mean, I would say they had our number. I mean, they had us down double figures in 2 of the 3 games, and we were able to come back and make them one-possession games, even take a lead in the Big 12 tournament. But I think we have to be better from the jump. If I were to say there's something that we have to be better, we've got to be better, not always fighting from behind, which we tended to do a year ago. So, hopefully we start better. But I think when it comes to the rivalry, we've started to recruit against them some, but not a ton. But I just think it matters in this state. It matters to our fans, and it's going to continue to matter to us. And when you talk about where we're at in the standings, it obviously drives the importance of the rivalry up when we're both competing, to finish at the top of the league.
Kind of going off of that a little bit, do you have to tell the team, how big this is? Do they kind of hype themselves up for it? What are the conversations like when it comes to this?
I think it's about focus. I don't think, not that we don't want it to be this way, but we don't have a ton of Texas kids on our roster that have grown up with this being a rivalry. Rivalries for most players today are when the best players line up and play against each other. And so, I don't think there's any doubt they all knew before we talked about TCU who Olivia Miles was. They might not have watched Cal a year ago and understood how good Suarez was or how good Silva was coming off the bench for Kentucky, but people have known who Olivia Miles is for a long time. And so, I think it's about the quality of player, and that being the crux of the rivalry. It's 2 good teams. Rivalries are not built off of one-sided matchups, and so when I played at Purdue and people wanted to make Indiana our rival, they weren't. Iowa and Ohio State were our rivals because those were the teams we were competing against to win a championship. Indiana has since become very, very good on the women's side, but at the time, your rivals are defined by the teams that are standing in the way of you getting what you want. And I think that's why we don't have to talk about it, because we know, they know how big this game is relative to winning a conference championship and NCAA tournament seeding. And so, it doesn't make it any easier, but you certainly don't have to talk about it. You just have to prepare. You prepare like they're any other team, and here are the things they're good at, and here are their holes, and here's what we want to exploit. And whoever does that the best, whoever executes the best, whoever, we have holes, they're going to know our holes. Do we plug them better than they plug theirs, and do we exploit the things that we want to exploit better. This game's going to come down to execution, and players making plays. And both of us have really good players.
Anything else? One more.
Does that make the challenge of guarding Olivia Miles, whoever that falls to, Jana, Talia, throw Bella out there maybe, does that make that more in the forefront? Are they up for that challenge of trying to slow down Olivia Miles?
Yeah, no one's going to stop Olivia. No, I mean, no one has stopped her this season, and no one's going to stop her. I mean, it's a, what are you willing to give up? What are you going to take away? Olivia Miles is, as a year ago, people projected her as a number 2 pick. They're still projecting her as the number 2 pick. I don't feel like Dallas thinks they need a point guard, so maybe she's number 1 if they did. She's an elite magician with the ball in her hands. She throws passes that I maybe have never seen a female collegian, let alone a pro player, make. She can throw the ball 60 feet with her offhand and throw it to somebody shooting pocket cross court. Like, she can do some really special things with the ball in her hand. So it's about, what do we want her to, like, what shots do we want her to take? What passes do we want, are we willing? It's those type of decisions you're trying to make, and then you have to adjust. You have to adjust on the fly, because she's good enough to figure out what you're doing, and Mark Campbell's good enough to figure out what are we doing, and like, how are we going to adjust to that, and I watch how they play. Like, they have a lot of ways that they can beat you. And so, from that perspective, like, are our players up for a challenge? Yeah, I don't think we have anyone that is afraid, but I also think we could guard her perfectly and she's still going to score some, I mean, right when you think she's not a good 3-point shooter, she's their best 3-point shooter in Big 12 play. So that isn't the whole. There was a time in her career that was the question mark on her. Is she a good 3-point shooter? She's a pretty good 3-point shooter. So, she's elite in transition. Her 0 to 60 is crazy. So, she has the ability to play really fast and to change speeds, and really elite passer, like really special passer. Thank you.